And welcome back to another episode of the Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brenden D. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We're talking Wildcard Weekend. 6 games to attack. Playoffs are here. Warrensy's Bears are eliminated. He's still rocking the Bears lid. Is that the one I got you for Christmas?
To be honest, I have about 7 Bears too.
Why didn't you tell me when I gave it to you then? I got to return and got you something else.
Every time I go for a walk with Monica, we each grab one. It will be used. It will be used.
I like to hear it. Warrensy, quickly, Bears coaching buzz. You got a guy you like? Guy you don't like?
Well, I heard they're even interviewing you next week. I think they got about 25 interview requests out. Mike McCarthy will not be one of them, but I don't know. I have lost all faith in this organization doing things properly, so I'm not excited about it.
I hate when people complain about like how many people teams interview. That's the way you should do it. Interview everyone and their mom and their vet and their dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who cares? Like, go get every idea you can possibly think of. Like, you have time. Like, there's no rush. So
yeah,
that's why I look at it.
Use all resources you have. But I mean, if you look at the Bears last season when they were doing their offensive coordinator hiring, they interviewed about 10 guys. They picked the worst one. So
that's true.
You can go through the right process, but at the end of the day, if you come to the wrong decision, I don't have any faith they'll get it right.
I think you'll get Ben Johnson and you'll be happy. I think that's where it's going to end up landing.
Best case scenario, but we got playoffs to talk about, man.
All right,
we got way more exciting stuff.
Okay, so we're going to do this a little different. If you listen to us throughout the year, Warrensy and I had 3 locks per week for the entire slate. We previewed every single game. I don't know how many games we did, but we touched every single game basically for the entire year except for Thursday Night Football. Okay, so this week for Wildcard Weekend, we're going to break down each side of the ball a little bit more than we did throughout our game preview shows during the year, and we're going to give you a spread pick for each game and our favorite prop bet for each game as well. So you're going to leave here today with 24 bets, a spread pick from each of us and a prop bet from each of us. I'm very excited, Warrensy. I like the slate. When I first saw it, I was like, it doesn't look like the best wildcard slate, but the more I dove into it, I'm excited for this weekend. Are you ready?
Oh, baby. Super wildcard weekend.
Yes. All right, let's start with the first game on Saturday. Los Angeles Chargers are heading into Houston. They are 2.5-point road favorites against the Texans. The Chargers grabbed the 5 seed in the AFC. The Texans grabbed the 4 seed, winning the AFC South. Warrensy, Texans offense, Chargers defense. What you looking at?
Sorry, say that again. We're starting with Texans offense?
Texans
or Chargers
offense. Let's go Texans offense, Chargers defense.
Right. For this side of the ball, I didn't really have a question specifically about Houston's offense. I guess more, I just wanted to look at the Chargers as a whole for this side of the ball and say, who's the best team that the Chargers beat this season? Who do you think it is?
They got rolled by the Bucs. I don't know. Hit me. Do you have one?
This season against teams that made the playoffs, the Chargers went 2-5, and both those wins were against the Broncos. I don't see why the Los Angeles Chargers are a road favorite in this spot, personally. Now, I know Houston is coming in stumbling, but they're at home, and I think that these two teams are equal, in my opinion. You're telling me that if this game was in Los Angeles, we'd be looking at a 7.5 point spread for the Chargers?
The Chargers don't even have like a home fan base. It'd probably be more Texans fans, all 20 of them packed in that stadium.
Yeah. But I personally think we're starting with this game because it's first. I think this is my favorite pick of the weekend, and I know I'm giving it away early. I'm going to be on the Texans here. I'm even going to be taking the money line. I just think that this Chargers team is really overrated, personally. If you look at their rush defense on the season, you'd see 9th overall in EPA per play. But through weeks 12 to 18, that fell to 16th. In success rate all season, they've been in that 15 to 20 range running against the run. We know what the Texans are going to do on first down. I'll tell you right now, it's run the ball. So if that success rate holds true, I think the Texans are going to be in second and manageable, third and manageable. And I just feel like CJ Stroud's going to be able to move the chains consistently in this game. I think the wrong team's favored here. Now, would I say that the Texans should be favored by more than a field goal? No, I think this should be a pick 'em. So I'm going to be on the Texans. I think it's my favorite pick of the week, personally.
Interesting. After I bashed Houston for 12 weeks this season, every single week we went into our previous show, and I couldn't stand talking about the Houston Texans.
Right. But and you're right to bash them. I'm not going to defend the Texans by any means, but I think
this is more of a fate of the Chargers a little bit more than...
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're right to bash the Texans, but that was based on expectations. We expected the Texans to come in and be a Super Bowl threat. We expected the Chargers to come in and, hey, if they make the playoffs, that's a great year. Well, guess what? These teams are equal, in my opinion. Like, I just have this as equal, and I'm going to take the home team here in this spot.
Okay, I want to break down this game a tad before I kind of throw my pick your way. I've been bashing Texans all year, right? And for good reason. They are 31st in offensive success rate heading into this game. They finished second last in the NFL on a down-to-down basis on offense with a quarterback, C.J. Stroud, a wide receiver like Nico Collins, a running back like Joe Mixon. To me, that is coaching malpractice. That I think a lot of people say C.J. Stroud regressed a bit. I can agree with that. There were definitely some missed throws down the stretch. He kind of looked worse and worse. But I do think offensive game planning had a lot to do with that as well. The Texans' offensive line has been a mess. They've allowed the fourth most pressures in the NFL, the third highest pressure rate from any team heading into this year. Something that really caught my eye, when I looked at the Chargers injury report, expected to see a Khalil Mack and a Joey Bosa on there. They're not. They're healthy. For once, those two guys are going to go into this game healthy. So can the Chargers off defensive line help the Chargers defense by getting after CJ Stroud? Now, you brought up Joe Mixon in the run game. I think if you're Houston here, the main thing you got to do is shorten this game, keep it tight, and keep Justin Herbert off the field. I know it's for what every team wants, but you want to get in those third and manageable situations. You don't want to be in 2nd and 9. You don't want to be in 3rd and 8. That's where the Houston Texans really struggle. And I think the Texans are going to have the kind of a run first game plan. And you already brought up, they love running the ball on first down. They're the highest early down rush team in the NFL over the last 2 seasons, according to True Media. And I think you're going to see that more. Can they attack the Chargers defensive line instead of having them come downhill on them in the passing game? And they're going to have to take some shots deep as well. They're really going to have to throw the ball deep to Nico Collins. You're going to need 2 or 3 of those chunk plays, because that's kind of what the offense has been living and dying from basically this entire season, is deep shots to Nico Collins. When he was out of the lineup, you really saw them struggle to push the ball deep, and there's no Tank Dell and there's no Stephon Diggs now, right? It's a one-man show in that passing game.
Yeah. I guess I also, part of me just can't get last year's super wild card weekend out of my mind, where Houston Texans went up against a really good Cleveland Browns defense and put up 45
and
points.
Lit it up. Yeah.
Now, I know you did mention 31st in offensive success rate. This year has been incredibly different, but I think that they have a better matchup against this Chargers defense. So I'm going to be on the Texans, and I'm going to be banging my head against the wall when Bobby Slowick runs the ball on first down every time. But this time, I think it's going to get 4 to 5 yards rather than 2nd and 9 every single series. I think it's going to be 2nd and 5. And I do think in the long run, that's going to make a huge difference, because you mentioned the pressure rate stats, which are very valid. But if they're not in obvious passing situations, Bosa and Mack have to be a little bit more on their heels.
Exactly,
if it's 3rd and 10, oh boy, the Chargers tee off. I think that they win this game with ease. But I'm banking on it being 2nd and short, 3rd and short, rather than those obvious passing situations.
Well, we're coming in against each other, the way that I talked. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be on the Los Angeles Chargers. I think this might be my favorite pick of the week. My Chargers -2.5, and it's a popular one. Everyone's on the Chargers. I know I'm a chalk here, but I'll give you a couple more reasons why. The Chargers quietly, over the last 3 weeks, have the best offense in the NFL. So if you just take a look at offensive EPA per dropback and offensive dropback success rate, the Chargers are first. 3 weeks isn't a big sample size, but if you take a look at throughout the league, the Chargers week 16 had a 94th percentile game in EPA per drive, week 17 a 93rd percentile game in EPA per drive, and against the Broncos defense, an 89th percentile game in EPA per drive. That is 3 really good performances. Justin Herbert looks at his best right now over the last 3 weeks, and I believe that will carry over into the playoffs. I can't trust this Texans team. They have given me no reason to. You think these teams are even? I disagree. I think the Chargers are a better football team than the Texans. I think the coaching matchup of Jesse Minter versus Bobby Sloak's going to come to fruition here. I think Bobby Sloak's fraudulent. I kind of was banging that drum midway through the season, and it's looking good right now. I think this Texans season comes crashing down for a team with CJ Stroud at quarterback and you're 31st in offense success rate. And you can't move the ball on a down-to-down basis. It's going to come back to bite you at this time in wildcard weekend. So I like the Chargers a lot this week.
Right. I guess my pushback on that will be the last 2 weeks they faced the Raiders and the Patriots, and those teams just don't offer pass rush. Remember, Max Crosby was out, and
the Texans are second in pressure. The Texans are second in pressure rate right now.
Right, because the matchup I cannot wait to watch more than anything in this game is going to be the Chargers edge rush the Texans edge rush versus the Chargers tackles. If you look at pass rush win rate, the Texans were the only team in the NFL to have 2 players in the top 10. Danielle Hunter finished number 1 in the NFL in pass rush win rate. Will Anderson held his own. He was 7th in the NFL in pass rush win rate. Going up against, how about this? Joe Alt finished 4th in pass block win rate. He was tied with Lane Johnson. Joe Alt as a rookie was basically Lane Johnson this season. That's just insane. So Will Anderson versus Joe Alt on the right side is going to be one hell of a matchup. Rashawn Slater didn't have enough snaps to see where he really ranked on a full season basis in pass rush or pass block win rate. But Danielle Hunter versus Slater and Will Anderson versus Joe Alt. Oh boy, I love a trenches matchup. Yep. That's going to be great.
Yeah, I was looking at the Texans defense. Like, could they get after Herbert? I think Herbert's going to play better than the Texans defense is. Like, he'll come above that. But all right, we're on different sides here. Quickly, a prop bet. So my prop bet's going to transfer.
Sorry, last thing I do have to mention is also don't forget. I love Justin Herbert. He's an amazing quarterback. In his lone playoff start, he blew a 28-point lead. He was up 28-0. That has to be something. That's not nothing.
It's a whole new coaching staff. It's a whole new coaching staff.
I know.
And that's another reason. Like, I think the only way the Texans can win this game if the Chargers are going to go run pass. Like, I think they've showed they're willing to throw the ball more with Justin Herbert as the season progressed on. I think that will transfer over as well. And my prop bet's going to be Justin Herbert 2+ touchdowns passes at -105. The Texans will have the 3rd most passing touchdowns of any defense this season with 31. They're very hard to run against. So you're going to see in the red zone Justin Herbert throw the ball. Justin Herbert has thrown 2+ passing touchdowns in 4 straight games as well. I think he's going to have a really good game, and I think he's going to kind of show the world why I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. So my favorite prop bet, Justin Herbert 2+ passing touchdowns at -105.
I like that, actually, because I do think if they get in the end zone, it will be through the air. I don't see J.K. Dobbins around the goal line. Yeah, I think he has a decent game in between the 20s, but I don't know if J.K. Dobbins gets in the end zone. My prop bet, I have 2 here. I was going to ask you, which one do you like more? Joe Mixon over 70.5 rush yards or Joe Mixon over 17.5 attempts?
The attempts one scares me because of the game script. It could flip anyway. I'd probably just go rushing yards.
Yeah. So I'll lock in Joe Mixon over 70.5 rush yards. And I saw a thread on Twitter that was really interesting. We were young, not that young. We probably would have been in high school, but in 2008, there's crazy comparisons of this Texans team and the 2008 Cardinals. 2008 Cardinals went 9-7. They won a very weak NFC West. And the second last game of the year, they were blown out 47-7 by the Patriots, and everybody wrote them off. They said this team is no good. They only made the playoffs because of a weak division. Texans, they got demolished 31-2 by the Ravens on Christmas. They're being written off. That Cardinals team, they found a way to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying the Texans can make the Super Bowl, but I do think it's very similar in the terms of they're writing a team off because of a Week 16 game where actually I think that butt whooping might be what they need to wake up and say, okay, let's go. Let's wake up here. So I'm going to be on the Texans. I'm probably going to buy 0.5 point. I know for the sake of the show, we got to lock in 2.5. But you can get a cheap buy up to 3 at -120. If you're on the Texans with me, I think just buy that 0.5 point and get the +3.
Do you remember that Cardinals run? Like, do you?
I just remember. I love Kurt Warner. Obviously, great name, great guy. So I just remember them going to that Super Bowl against the Cardinals, probably the best Super Bowl of our lifetime in terms of entertainment. But it did kind of surprise me that Cardinals team was 9-7. I kind of thought that they were a better team, right? When you think about it in past times, you're like, oh yeah, Kurt Warner and that Cardinals team, they were pretty good. They're actually a pretty mediocre team.
Or come to my history lesson here. That 2008 Cardinals team haunts me to this day. It was my worst.
It was
the
NFC
Eagles in the
championship
game. That was the last time I cried watching a football game in sadness. When the Eagles lost Super Bowl this year, 2 years ago, I just went to bed. But that one, like I was 12 years old, I bawled my eyes out. The Texans don't have Larry Fitzgerald on the team. Larry Fitzgerald went for miss me with that. That was the best playoff run by a wide receiver in like NFL history. He went for 3 tutters and 180 yards against the Eagles in that game, in the NFC Championship game. He was like, no one was stopping him during those 3 games. In the Super Bowl, he had that touchdown with 2 minutes left, right? Like that 2008 Cardinals team is one of my most hated teams in NFL history because I still believe the Eagles should have won the Super Bowl that year. That team was like, they would have beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl. Okay, let's move off because I could rant on about that team forever. All right, next up, to finish off the Saturday games, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the road, take on the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are 9.5 point favorites in this game. Just quickly, Zay Flowers is probably not going to play in this game. It doesn't look like that's affected the books at all. If they already had that built in when they started, but 9.5 point favorites, the team having the number 1 wide receiver is noteworthy here. Warrensy, what you looking at?
You want to start Baltimore offense or Steelers offense?
Let's start with Baltimore's offense.
Baltimore's offense. Okay, so my question is, how good is this Steelers defense? Like, I think the media and the narrative is, Steelers defense, they're a top 5 unit. They're really good. If you look at EPA per play over the entire season, they rank 9th on the season. You say, hey, that's pretty good defense. If you look at success rate, they're 20th in the league at success rate, meaning they really kind of live on turnovers and making the big play on that side of the ball. Lamar Jackson threw 4 interceptions this entire season. He does not turn the ball over.
I saw a clip of all of his interceptions too. Like 3 of them were tipped. Like he was so good. He was so damn good. Sorry.
And when I think success rate on offense, the first guy that comes to my head is Derrick Henry. Like you just don't tackle him behind the line of scrimmage. So I just think that the Steelers defense might be getting a little bit too much. Not respect isn't the right word because it's still a Steelers defense coached by Mike Tomlin. They deserve
people
respect.
Are giving him the credit, the benefit of the doubt of being like an old Steelers defense when this year it's just not.
And I just think they're meant. I don't think they're elite by any means. So, and I just think Baltimore's a really bad matchup because if you have a poor success rate, Baltimore's not the offense you want to play. They're number 2 in success rate on the season. So again, like I said with the Texans, being a 2nd and very manageable, 3rd and very manageable, I don't see how Baltimore's not in that scenario. Now, covering 9.5 is a very different story than just winning the game. Steelers have won 8 of the last 10 meetings in this matchup. Only 1 of those games has been by more than 1 score in their last 10. It was the most recent matchup when Baltimore won by 17. So just history and just the fact that these 2 teams hate each other has me taking the plus 9.5. But if I were to power rank these 6 games, I think this would be my number 6 of my spreads. And it would be Steelers plus 9.5.
Yeah, I think the Zay Flowers thing, like the Baltimore's passing offense has shown over the last few weeks where they can get production from other guys. But I'm really curious to see how this affects the passing game. Like, is Zay Flowers, like taking him out of the game, really going to affect like Lamar Jackson? Because another thing is too, like my question with the Ravens offense, like what Lamar are we getting? Like, and it's been the talk of the town, like throughout every sports talk show host. Lamar's 2-4 in the playoffs in his career. He's completed less than 60% of his passes in those games. What really stood out to me when I was looking at Lamar's playoff stats, he was sacked 26 times in 6 games. He had a quote earlier this week, I don't know if you saw this, that he played antsy in the playoffs. Like he feels like he's trying to do too much. And I think those sack numbers really show that. And if the Steelers are going to win this game, it's going to be on the defense side of the ball with TJ Watt wrecking the game and Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward and those guys, right? That's the only way. So I'm so curious to see what the type of Lamar we get. Having said that, I'm confident we're getting this Lamar Jackson of this season and last season. I know he didn't play well against the Chiefs in the playoffs last year, but I just think this is a different football player than like Lamar's pass. Like he's just such a better passer. Like you said, he 41 passing touchdowns, only 4 picks, 3 of them were tipped. He led the league in passer rating, quarterback rating, touchdown percentage. He rushed for 900 yards. He should be the MVP of the season, but Josh Allen's going to get it because of the narrative base. Like I'm really confident that we're not going to get the pass playoff Lamar, but that is kind of the talking point of Baltimore's offense right now.
Right. And on the other side of the ball, my question is, I guess, why is Russell Wilson starting this football game?
Okay, Warren, here in my notes, the first thing I have in Steelers is Justin Fields has played 9 plays since Russell Wilson has taken over the starter. Like they're not even using him in like packages, formations. Like I have like, is Justin Fields going to be like the secret weapon for them? You know what I mean? Like, does Mike Tomlin just throw like a Justin Fields package? Because it's do or die now. It's now or never. Like, the Steelers got to get something going on offense. And I feel like quietly Justin Fields could have a big role in this game.
I completely agree, because since throwing for a career high 414 yards against the Bengals, that was 5 games ago for Russell Wilson. So over his last 4 games, he's averaged 170 yards passing per game. Now, I know George Pickens has missed a few of those games, and he was banged up when he did come back, but still, the Steelers' offense is hand the ball off on first down, you're 2nd and 9, and let's throw 2 deep balls and just hope somebody catches one of them. It's been a very inefficient offense, and you mentioned it. No mobility with Russell Wilson. He's been sacked 9 times over the last 2 weeks, so I did say that the Steelers plus 9.5 is probably my least favorite spread pick, but my favorite prop of this weekend is going to be Kyle Van Noy over 0.25 sacks. That's minus 110. So all he's got to do is get half a sack. He had 12.5 on the season, and he had 1.5 sacks all by himself in the week 16 matchup. Game state should have Steelers trailing, meaning a lot of passing opportunities for the Steelers. So although it's my least favorite spread, my favorite prop of the week is going to be Kyle Van Noy to at least get half a sack.
I like that. I can't get out of my head that 2-minute drill that Russell Wilson had against the Bengals. It was atrocious. Like, I don't know if you caught that.
For 4 weeks, he has looked so bad. And they've lost all 4 games.
He missed like 2 throws. Like, how he didn't run out of bounds on that one. Like, it still baffles me. And like, I can't get that out of my head when I look at this game here. The Steelers' offense is 30th in EPA per play since week 14 over the last 5 weeks. 30th. They're a bottom 3 offense efficiency wise. I think the spread's very high, and it scares me to take the Ravens minus 9.5. But I have to do it. I can't trust Pittsburgh right now. I think they're a dead team walking. I think this, like you brought up, like the defense is different this year. What am I supposed to lay my hat on here? Like they are George Pickens deep balls or nothing. They don't have a scary threat on offense. The Ravens defense as well is kind of getting under talked about. If you just take a look at what they've done over since week 11. So they are first in total EPA per play through the air, first in EPA per pass play, first in pass success rate, first in yards per play, and first in points against. The defense is playing lights out over the last 8 weeks. The Ravens defense was so bad. Like if you take a look at from weeks 1 to 10, 27th in total EPA, 30th in EPA per pass play, 29th in pass success rate, 25th in yards per play, 27th in points allowed. Like this defense is a tale of 2 different teams. It is the weeks 1 to 10 and the weeks 11 to 18. And I think they're going to shut the Steelers offense down. And the last time we saw these 2 teams play where the Steelers had success was obviously early in the season. And then we saw the most recent one where the Steelers got blown out and Lamar lit them up. So I think the Ravens roll, but just the 9.5 is worrisome. I don't love it, but I also do think the Ravens are coming out of the AFC. It's kind of like, I know we're not doing a Super Bowl prediction, but I think this is the best team in football right now.
Right. So what's your prop?
Yeah, prop bet in this one is going to be Rashad Bateman over 43.5 receiving yards. I think that's pretty low. Zay Flowers is going to be out of this game. When you look at when he was out against the Browns, Rashad Bateman had 76 receiving yards, and that one is basically going to be the number 1 option on the outside. Since week 10, the Steelers are bottom 10 in pass success rate and pass EPA per pass play. So I think Bateman has a day, and I'm going to go back to my draft scouting of him. I loved him coming out of Minnesota, and he's finally shining, and it's great to see. And I think he has a nice day without Zay Flowers on the field.
Right on. I like that. Yeah, I'm just going to throw in my honorable mention for prop was Steelers team total under 17.5. But you do have to pay quite a bit of juice there. It's minus 140, so I didn't want to give that out as my main prop. But I do feel like that's pretty safe. If the Steelers are able to cover this game, it's going to be because it's a 21-14 game. I don't see a world where this is a 27-25 type shootout.
Russ ain't going toe-to-toe with Lamar and
exactly.
Yeah,
so I do think that you do have to pay a lot of juice, but I think Steelers under on their team total is a safe bet if you're willing to pay some juice.
All right, let's head into Sunday. The Denver Broncos are on the road taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 8.5-point favorites. This game has me in a blender all week. I'm curious what you have. Broncos offense, Bills defense.
Let's start with you. I've started the last couple because this is a game I also don't have a great feel on. This is probably the game I have the least notes on, to be honest. So let's start with you.
Okay, my Broncos offense is they're just gonna have to run the ball. You can't let Bo Nix try to win this game for you. I get he's played well. I get he's exceeded expectations. But do you really want Bo Nix on the road throwing the ball 35, 40 times? I don't think so. They're gonna have to establish a run game. And something that caught my eye when I was going through like PFF grades compared to like rush success rate and stuff like that. The Bills' interior defenders are not having a good year. Daquan Jones has been brutal all season. I'm trying to think of there's another one. They're both in like the bottom 15 of PFF grades against the run here. What is the strength of the Denver Broncos? Their interior of their offensive line is fucking awesome. So I think like that's a matchup that they can win. And I think they're going to have to like kind of dominate the interior, get Javonte Williams going downhill, Audric Estime going downhill. And they're going to have to kind of chew this clock up and keep the ball to Josh Allen's hands. I already brought up earlier, like that's what every team wants to do, keep the ball to the best quarterback in the world's hands. But I do think it means a lot in this game. And I do think there's a matchup the Broncos can exploit there, and that's in the interior of the Bills defense, and their interior offensive line is awesome. Bo Nix has been well protected and well served all season.
Yeah, I actually couldn't agree more. I think if you were just to grade offensive lines as a whole, so just looking at the 5-man unit, this Denver offensive line, they've been a top 3
They're
unit
awesome.
This entire season.
They're PFF's highest grade offensive line. I think they're third in pressure rate allowed, second in sacks. In my notes here, I have
healthy too, which has been a huge help.
In my notes here, I have these are 2 of the top 5 best offensive lines in the NFL, both sides. Bills' offensive line has been great, but the Broncos' offensive line has been outstanding.
Yeah. So in this game, you do have to also look at it. It's going to be negative temperatures. There is a chance of snow in the forecast, but this game's in Buffalo. That damn lake, you just never know what you're going to get.
There's snow on the radar every day.
Exactly. But it is for sure going to be below 0, so we have freezing temperatures. I really hate. I'm taking another dog. I
knew you were going to be on the Broncos.
Game. I think the Bills win the game, but we saw Skylar Thompson cover against this Bills team on the road in the playoffs. I think that the Bills might. I know it's a playoff game, but they might have an eye on next week. They are big favorites in this spot. I think they might be looking ahead. I think they win the game, but I am going to take the Broncos. Mm-hmm. My question to you about the Bills side of the ball, are we worried about Tyler Bass at all?
That's where we're going? Yes, I've been worried about him all season. He sucks. Yeah. He's one of the worst kickers in the league.
He missed the most extra points in the NFL this season. He's 26th in field goal percentage this year. That's the lowest of any kicker who made the playoffs. I don't know. There's a chance, especially when you're getting asked to cover 8.5 here. So what? If they're up 7, trying to make it a 10-point game, I don't know. I just think it's got to be in the back of the mind of every Bills fan is I don't know if I trust our kicker. So I'm going to take the Broncos, although I don't feel too great about it.
Let me throw some Broncos propaganda your way before I kind of give my pick of how they could cover, why I think there's a potential they could cover. They haven't been blown out all season except for one game, and that was the Lamar Jackson 41-10 game. If you take a look at Denver's 7 losses, only one of them was by more than 7 points, and that was the 31-point loss to Baltimore. They have a recipe for keeping things close here, and a lot of that's because Bo Nix doesn't turn the ball over. If you look at among all starting quarterback seasons, so 34 qualified, he has the 5th lowest percentage of turnover-worthy throws according to Pro Football Focus. And his sack rate's at 4.1. That's the 6th lowest in the league. The Broncos don't give up negative plays on offense. They do Sean Payne's does such a good job of kind of protecting that offense from negative plays and just getting it down to down success rate. So Having said all that, I'm taking the Bills. I'm taking the Bills minus 8.5 because the one loss was the Baltimore Ravens.
Allen versus a rookie quarterback.
Exactly. I don't trust Bo Nix going into Buffalo in the playoffs. I think we're going to kind of see what everyone saw during the draft process. He's going to falter a little bit. And Josh Allen is the second best player. Should be runner up for MVP. I think he's going to win it, like I said earlier. But I think he has a great game. The Bills' offense is third in EPA per play. I'm always the guy that says good offense is going to beat good defense. I think they roll. I think Buffalo wins by more than 8.5. I do think there's a chance that Broncos can kind of keep this one close early, but I don't know. I can't trust Denver. I think Buffalo is a way more superior team.
Sure. So wow, we're against each other on the first three spreads. I know you're not gonna bet this prop, but I'm gonna be betting under 46.5 in this game. I mentioned the freezing temperatures, light wind, not crazy wind, but light wind. This season, the Bills were the 5th slowest pace on offense. A lot of that is because they were playing with the lead a lot of the time. Denver, they were a middle-of-the-pack team in terms of pace, but I think this game, they're going to slow it down. You want to keep the ball away from Josh Allen as much as possible. And I just don't know where I see explosive plays on either side of the ball here. I do think that both defenses are going to play that cover 2 high safety shell, keep things in front of them. Clock's going to be moving. So, and both defenses are top 5 against the rush in terms of EPA. So I think you could see a lot of 2-yard runs in a cloud of dust. And I think actually the Broncos will be okay with that because it's going to keep the clock moving, keep the ball away from Josh Allen. So I know you're not going to bet it, but I'm going to be on the under 46.5.
Betting an under in the playoffs, I'd literally rather die. Literally kill me over doing that. All right, my prop bet's greasy. I couldn't find anything I really liked in this one prop wise, but I dug something up. Bo Nix over 25 rushing yards, minus 115. Why not? I think he's gonna be running for I think he's gonna trying to panic a little bit, take off. He's hit this in 3 straight games as well. He's used his legs a lot more as the season progresses. I think you're gonna see him on the move a lot. So Bo Nix over 25 is a low number for me, especially I think they're going to be passing a lot towards the end of the game. So there's going to be a lot of scramble opportunities for Bo Nix. So 25 minus 115. All right, 3 games done. 3 games left to go. We'll take a quick break and get you on the other side.
The Double Doink Podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Life is hard. It's especially hard when you don't have someone you can open up to. Not everyone is comfortable talking to their friends and family about their personal matters or anything that is bothering them on a day-to-day basis. Mental health is so important to continued success in this world. Therapy is a great way to regroup and get everything off your chest. Insert BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the largest online therapy service, 100% online. They will match you with a professional licensed therapist you can trust. You can talk with your therapist however you see fit, via text, phone call, or video chat. BetterHelp has successfully helped over 4 million people worldwide deal with their day-to-day mental health issues. Use the link in the podcast description to get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.
And we're back on the Double Doink Podcast, previewing Wildcard Weekend. Let's finish off the Sunday games. Green Bay Packers on the road take on my Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are 4.5-point favorites. Before we even get to it, let's just end this now. Jalen Hurts was back at practice on Wednesday. I feel like the entire NFL world forgot how concussion protocol works. You actually have to practice to get cleared. He didn't practice last week because he wasn't playing in Week 18. You actually have to be on the practice field to clear protocol. He's going to play. Every talk show needs to stop talking about, is he going to play or not? I saw Pardon the Interruption do 5-minute segment on if he's going to play, and they're talking Kenny Pickett might play in this game. Enough. Jalen Hurts will be on the field on Sunday. Warrensy. Pass the ball to you.
Yeah, so much talk about the Hurts injury, not a lot of talk about the Love injury.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking about a guy's throwing arm here, right? It's his elbow.
He was limited in practice on Wednesday, too. He wasn't a full participant, so...
Right, so how many throws did he get? His legs work fine, so he can go through the walkthroughs and everything, no problem, but... if his arm isn't great, I don't know how I feel about the Packers. It's very tough to handicap this game because you don't know the health status of Jordan Love. You want to start Packers offense or Eagles offense?
Let's start with the Packers offense. The other big injury is Christian Watson, and I think this is one of the bigger injuries of Wildcard Weekend. If you just take a look, if Christian Watson's on the field, compare where they're off the field, they're 1.3 yards per route run with him off, 2.4 explosive play rate. That would rank 20th. With Watson on the field, 1.67 yards per route run, 3.7 explosive play rate. That would rank first. Watson on the field turns him to a bottom 10 explosive rate offense to the best explosive play rate offense. And I think to beat this Eagles team, you have to get explosive plays. The Eagles are first in defensive success rate on the season. I think this is a good matchup for the Eagles secondary against the Packers wide receiver core. And we saw the Bears even last week just kind of go man up on these guys. Like, they weren't scared of them. Like, without Watson, like, there's not a lot of juice on the wide receiver room. I like a Romeo Doubs. I like a Dontavian Wicks, but they're not stretching the field for you. So I think a Watson injury is very key in this game.
Yeah, you mentioned the Bears playing a lot of man last week, and on the season, Jordan Love had the largest splits in terms of zone versus man. He was number 3 in QB EPA per play against zone, but 30th versus man. And even in week 17 against the Vikings, Brian Flores played his highest rate of zone defense all season, and it worked. The Eagles are very in the middle of the pack in terms of their splits. They basically play man against teams that struggle versus man, and then they play zone against teams that struggle versus zone. Vic Fangio, great defensive mind.
Yeah, he mixed it up a lot. If you take a look at the man versus zone splits, I was looking at this today. The Eagles had the 6th highest man rate coverage in a game this year against the Cleveland Browns. So that means Vic Fangio saw something. We're playing straight man here, right? And then they've also had the 2nd highest zone rate against a team this season as well. So Vic Fangio, like those stats you just said, Fangio's going to sniff that out. Like, he's willing to adapt on a team-to-team basis. They don't just play their style, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And the Eagles have been very stout versus the run as well. So is Jordan Love all of a sudden going to be better versus zone with a banged up elbow? You can tell where I'm going with this pick. I'm going to be on my first favorite of the week. I'm riding with your Birds.
I hate how confident I am in them this week. But I just want to talk. I want to talk the other side of the ball quick here. I think A.J. Brown versus this pass defense is the biggest mismatch in this game. The Packers are 28th in drop back success rate. Having said that, they are 9th in total DVOA on defense. This is a defense that's played better down the stretch. Like, if you take a look at just like every number, basically except for like a down-to-down passing unit, they've been great. But we saw what the Eagles can do against a pass defense like that. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 22nd in pass defense success rate, they picked you apart slow, like little by little. And that was the last time we saw Jalen Hurts on the field. And I think the Jalen Hurts stuff is way overblown. I think he's going to be healthy. I think he's going to play well through the air. And I just think it's a huge mismatch for them. Like, there's no Jair Alexander in this game. Like, who's covering A.J. Brown? Valentine's been playing well down the stretch. Everyone's been kind of talking him up on Twitter saying he'll be this A.J. Brown stopper. It reminds me of like P.J. Tucker versus LeBron James. You know, we'll get the LeBron stopper. We got P.J. Tucker. Like, I don't know. Well, I don't know how they're going to handle him in this one. So I think the Eagles pass offense is going to have success because the Packers have a good run defense as well. They're top 10 in EPA per rush, EPA success rate per rush. So they're stout there. And I know we're a couple minutes in. We haven't even mentioned Saquon Barkley. I do think you're going to see more Jalen Hurts through the air than Saquon Barkley running the ball.
Right. And a note I have on this side of the ball is, will the Eagles use no huddle more? They were a middle of the pack team in terms of no huddle. That week 17 game against the Vikings, get this, the Vikings had a 100% success rate on second down when using no huddle after a run.
Interesting.
Kevin O'Connell clearly saw something in the tape. They got a first down every single time they did no huddle on second down versus Packers defense. Maybe Jeff Hafley will come up with a better game plan to stop this, but I think the Eagles, if they can use that more, that will really go in their favor.
Okay, I'm taking the Eagles minus 4.5. I think the Love injury is significant. Like you said, I think the Christian Watson injury is significant. Packers aren't playing good football. Like I was waiting for this Packers team to kind of roll towards the end of the season. Jordan Love Toyotathon, all those memes for him. He hasn't looked the same, man. Like he hasn't looked like it just doesn't it hasn't happened for them this season.
Yeah, a lot of throws off his back foot lately.
Yeah, he looks flustered. I trust the Eagles a lot more. The Eagles are also, I think, one of the most under talked about things about this team heading into the playoffs is every single week 1 starter will be healthy in the wild card round for the Eagles. That is unheard of in today's NFL.
Super wild card round.
The only guy they're missing is Brandon Graham, basically, and he was a rotational defensive lineman. Avonte Maddox started week 1. Cooper DeJean swapped in for him. And I was trying to go back to like the week 1 game between Eagles Packers and find something from it.
Oh,
It was nothing. They were in the Brazil. The field was a mess. I tried watching highlights of it. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. I forgot how dumb that game was. So you can't even go back to that. I just think the Eagles are a better team. I think they win this one by more than 4.5 points. But I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm confident, but there's a little tad in me that's like, does Jordan Love go on a heater here?
You're a closet Packers fan, so
yeah. I wanted to be on them all season. Like I was waiting for that Love break. It just hasn't happened yet. So you're also on the Eagles minus 4.5. My prop bet here, I wanted to find AJ Brown props. They are so inflated. It's stupid. So I'm going to go with the other guy, Devonta Smith, over 5.5 receptions. That is plus 100. So you actually get juice on that. He's hit that in 3 straight games that he's played. He hit that against Green Bay Packers in week 1. When the Eagles threw the ball against the Steelers a lot, he had 11 catches on 12 targets. He was heavily targeted underneath. The Packers are 28th in drop back success rate. So that means on a down-to-down basis, they can't stop you on those short and intermediate routes. And I think that's where Devonta Smith thrives. So I think you're going to see a lot of Smitty in this one as well. I like that over 5.5 receptions market plus 100.
Nice. I like that. I found it really hard to find a prop in this game. I liked Jordan Love's arm injury was a big factor on that. I didn't really trust anything on the Packers side of things. I'm going to go Jalen Hurts rush attempts under 9.5. Now, I know he's cleared concussion protocol and is completely okay. I don't think he's going to be tucking and running it as much as he normally would just because he is coming off a concussion. Now, the tush-push does count as a rush attempt, so that scares me. But I don't think he's going to be running as much as usual. And if you look at his game log throughout the year, like he's been under 9.5 more times than over 9.5 this season. It's about 60-40. So throw in the concussion there. I'm going to go under 9.5 Jalen Hurts rush attempts.
One of the biggest improvements from Hurts this year to last year was when he takes off. He's doing it less, but he's way more efficient at. He has the 3rd most EPA out of any quarterback in scrambles. Last year was way down. Like he was running way too often. So yeah, I like that. Like he's been a lot smarter when he takes off with the ball this season. Okay, let's move on to Sunday night. The Washington Commanders are on the road, take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are 3-point favorites. Just a nugget I want to drop on this game. So both offenses have been really good this season. The Jaden Daniels in the Baker Mayfield matchup is awesome just from the numbers base. Jaden Daniels 5th in EPA per play. Jaden Daniels 5th in EPA per play. Baker Mayfield 6th out of all qualifying quarterbacks. If you take a look at the history of like top offenses in the NFL, like just making the playoffs, among 20 teams that have played in the championship game over the last 5 seasons, only one of those 20 was not a top 5 or top 8 offense, according to DVOA. That was Cincinnati Bengals in 2021. Both the Commanders and the Bucs qualify for that. They have top 8 DVOA offense. So this is like, let's think about this. Like, is this like a sneaky, like whoever wins this game has a shot at the NFC Championship kind of thing? Like, could they be road warriors in the divisional round because they have all the tools and all the data backing up with good offenses to kind of support that?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. My question on the Commanders side of things, let's start on that side of the ball, is Cliff going to let Jaden cook? Is he just going to trust him and put the ball in his hands? The Bucs are very good versus the run. When Todd Bowles wants to stop the run, he presses the Vita Vea button and they stop the run. They have actually been very poor versus the pass. If you look at their season-long metrics, they're very inflated because of the quarterbacks they've played recently. They've played Tommy DeVito. They did have one game against Justin Herbert, but then you have 2 games against Bryce Young, Cooper Rush, Spencer Rattler, Aiden O'Connell. They've played some very poor quarterbacks that has made their pass defense look very mediocre in fact it's pretty poor.
We had this talk like week 13. We're like, whoa, the Bucs are like 30th in EPA per drop back right now. Like those numbers have improved because of the bad quarterbacks, but they're still 27th in drop back success rate on the season. I have that in my notes. Like if this is a team you can throw the ball against on a down-to-down basis.
Right. So the question, though, is will Cliff Kingsbury let his rookie quarterback, we said this about Bo Nix, we don't want him throwing the ball 30, 35 times. Mm-hmm. I want Jaden Daniels throwing the ball 30, 35 times in this game. I think that's how they win. So I hope Cliff lets him eat, let him cook, put the ball in Jaden Daniels' hands.
I said this on the radio last week on a radio hit. I don't remember a rookie quarterback that just had so many big time moments and like just hasn't been phased under pressure more than Jaden Daniels this season. Like the Hail Mary play, the deep pass to Terry McLaurin against the Bengals, like that overtime win against the Falcons. Like every like pressure moment that has been thrown his way, he's beat. Like that's why I think you're going to see his play translate from the regular season to the postseason. Like I don't have like the rookie quarterback stigma around him. Is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is another game similar to the Eagles versus Packers in week 1 where I'm not using that game tape.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not using week 1 Commanders Bucks as game tape either. Because like you said, Jaden Daniels, yes, he's a rookie quarterback, but he's like CJ Stroud last year, I think, where he's a rookie by name, not by if you watched the games. He just doesn't act like a rookie. So I'm not using that week 1 outcome as a scare off on my Jaden Daniels love.
Baker Mayfield ripped apart that defense week 1. He was 24-30 for 289 yards and 4 tutters. Something I thought interesting, Baker Mayfield ran for 68 yards last week. He's using his legs a lot more as well. The Commanders don't do well against running quarterbacks. Bobby Wagner's older, like their linebackers aren't as fast. Frankie Louvu is good coming downhill, but when a quarterback kind of gets to the pocket, Baker I think can take advantage of that. I think the Bucs offense also matches up very well against this Commanders defense. I think what they do well, the intermediate part of the field, like I don't think we get the Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore matchup, which is interesting.
I put my note on that. Am I the only one who doesn't care about that matchup? Like, I cared about that matchup in 2018. Like, they're both on the decline.
They're definitely fighting. They're definitely fighting on Sunday. They're 100% going at it.
No,
Wardsy, they hate each other. Like, they're the one.
Yeah,
like they hate each other.
I hope they do.
But they literally can't stand the sight of each other. It's one of the matchups still in the NFL where the players literally despise each other. So I think there's going to be some action there.
Yeah, maybe. I wanted to do a prop on, because I do think Mike Evans' total is a little bit high, but I would take Evans over Lattimore if I had to, so I'm going to stay away from that prop.
Okay, I thought this one was really hard. I'm going to go the Commanders +3. I think they're going to go. I think they're going to cover the spread, keep it close, or win this game outright. I think they got to spark the season. I don't know. Like I think they can go in, and I don't think you're going to get like the rookie quarterback versus Todd Bowles matchup. We've already talked about how we're confident in Jaden Daniels. I think they pull this one off. I think they're going to cover and win this one. But I went back and forth all week, but it came to my senses here, and I think the Commanders do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to lock in Commanders +3 as well. Just quick notes on the Bucs offense for me is, let Bucky Irving eat. If I'm the if I'm the Bucs. We talked about Baker. He has been really hot, but Bucky Irving's the one with the matchup here. He's averaging over 5.5 yards per carry the last 4 games since returning from injury. Washington's been a bottom 5 rush defense all season. Don't waste downs with Rachaad White. Give the ball to Bucky Irving. I can't attack his prop either because I think Vegas is with me in that. His line is 88.5 rush yards. So that's a high total because all of a sudden if you waste 7 carries on Rachaad White, it's kind of hard to hit 90 yards, I think, if you're Bucky Irving. And you mentioned Baker's legs. He could do a lot of the work on the ground. So I think it's a clear path for both offenses. It's Jaden Daniels' arm and Bucky Irving running the ball. I just don't know if either offensive coordinator is going to really lean into it. It's hard to say.
All right, my prop bet, another greasy one. How about an Austin Eckler over 2.5 receptions at +100?
Hey, wow, we are attacking Eckler. He's my prop as well. I'm getting so greasy.
What are the odds that we come up with Austin Eckler here? I was just looking at like his reception stats in the passing game. He hit 4 receptions last time these two teams played. Whenever he's healthy, they throw him the ball in the passing game. The Bucs have allowed the 5th most receptions to opposing running backs. I think he's going to see a lot of third down. Like Brian Robinson isn't your third down guy. When Eckler was healthy throughout the year, he was the guy over. Who was the other running back there? Jeremy McNichols and Rodriguez, I believe, is the other one. Eckler is the second one. You're going to see a lot of passing opportunities for him. He's a veteran. Jaden Daniels trusts him. So give me Eckler over 2.5 catches +100. Why not?
I like that. I'm actually going his under on his rushing yards. Now it's 19.5. That is a very small number, but I completely agree with what you said. He's going to be the third down back, and I trust him to catch passes, but I don't think he's going to run the ball. Last week, he only had 3 carries. I mentioned the good Bucs ground defense. I don't see Austin Eckler breaking off big runs here. Even if he gets up to 5 carries, I see him at 5 carries for 15 yards type thing. So it's greasy, but I'm on Eckler under 19.5 rush yard.
Okay, so we got to send that clip to Austin Eckler. Like, we're just both attacking his friend. What the fuck just happened?
Well, hey, we like him as a catcher. We like him as a receiver here. No running,
So
though.
random. I thought I was out of my mind for taking Austin Eckler prop, but you follow up. All right, let's go on the final game. Let's finish this bad boy off. Monday night, the Minnesota Vikings are heading into Los Angeles. They're 1.5-point favorites. Hey, you go 14-3. Here's your reward. You got to go across the country and into Los Angeles and play Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. It's a little shot at the playoff format, but it is what it is. Sam Darnold's coming off his worst game of the season. It was actually Minnesota's worst offensive success rate since Kevin O'Connell took over. And think about, like, they had to play some bad quarterbacks last year when Kirky got hurt. Like, it was rough. That's my question for the Vikings offense. Like, what Sam Darnold are we getting? Because this Rams pass defense can be had. They're 28th in EPA per dropback. This isn't an elite pass defense. So what side of Sam Darnold are we getting? And I'm assuming that's basically everyone's big question for this game.
Yeah, no, you called the Vikings frauds last week. It was against the Detroit Lions, though I've
been called the Vikings frauds every week, and it's been coming back to bite me, and it finally came to fruition. But
it is. So last week, I do think that there was a lot of talk in the media about why are the Rams resting guys? Why don't they want to try to win that game? Because if they won last week, they get the 3 seed.
They would have, yeah.
And are playing the Commanders. I think Sean McVay knows he has a nice matchup versus Vikings team. I think he was banking on the Lions winning. The Rams won the matchup 30-20 this year. That was week 8. I do think there is something there. And I just think that this Rams team matches up well versus the Vikings. And Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell know each other extremely well. O'Connell obviously came from the McVay coaching tree. But you're also getting this Rams team basically off a bye. They're more fresh.
McVay was very adamant to reporters this week. Like, the rest is so much more important than whoever the fuck we're playing. Like, because Puka Nakua's been battling injuries all year, right? Like, this is an older team. So it's a chess match. He picked where he wanted to go. I don't hate it. He was getting a lot of heat for it with the 34 seed. I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. The Vikings have played with the lead more than any team in the NFL this year. That kind of blew me away, but they've just been in the lead all season. So I think there's some really serious noise in that Vikings #1 rush defense EPA. It's fraudulent, I think, just because they've always been in the lead. Teams are always passing the ball against them.
We saw them last week. We saw Jahmyr Gibbs fucking go crazy.
Yeah, the Lions as a team ran for 178 yards last week. Kyron Williams in the Week 8 matchup had 97 yards. I just think that they match up well. And this one blew my mind too. We know that Brian Flores is going to bring heat. He blitzes more than any defense in the NFL. Matt Stafford this year, 8 touchdowns to 2 interceptions versus the blitz. And his completion percentage was better versus the blitz this year.
He's always been historically good against the blitz. It's been like one of his better traits as a quarterback.
So I just think Sean McVay might have been onto something and knowing that, hey, this matchup ain't too shabby for us.
Yeah, and the Vikings, like, Byron Murphy's had a good season. Stephon Gilmore's played well, basically signed him in like July, I believe. I just think the Puka Nacua matchup against his Vikings defense, he can move all around the field, especially against a team that blitzes. I think he's like the perfect chess piece. I'll go back to the chess reference here. I think he just works so well against a Brian Flores defense. And something that I've been thinking about that Lions game, I don't know about you, but that Vikings defensive performance looked more of like the old Brian Flores defensive schemes where he's like just throwing anything at the wall to see what sticks here. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like he doesn't know not that he doesn't know what he's doing, but he just knew he was outmatched. And the Rams offense is fucking good with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and all those guys on the field when they're healthy. Like, I don't think they're like maybe not as good as the Lions, but this is a top 7 offense according to success rate since week 8 with Puka Nacua on the field. I think I've always said a good offense is going to beat a good defense. So I trust this Rams offense against the Vikings. That leads into my pick. I like the Rams in this one. I know it's a chalk pick. A lot of people are on them, but I think they win at home.
Yeah, I'm on the Rams as well, and I'll lead that into my prop, which is going to be the over. I think this game is going to be whoever has the ball last. It's indoors. Do we have to prayers out to all the people in LA right now? Some serious stuff going on. I don't like using it as a factor, but LA's playing for their city, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not fun to talk about, but if this game does get played in LA, that could be a really big rallying point for their city. So I do think you'll get that first time all year the LA Rams faithful show out, support the home team. And we're indoors, fast track. So give me the over 48, and I'm on the Rams with you.
Yeah, the Rams released a statement like right before we started the podcast about how they're still playing the game there. But yeah, it's definitely a talking point. I like Cooper Kupp over 50 receiving yards. It's minus 105. We know he plays well in the playoffs. Flores is going to do everything possible to try to stop Puka. I think Kupp's going to get a lot of targets early. I think Puka ends up taking the game over later. 50 yards is small for a Vikings team that allows the second most receiving yards to opposing wide receivers. This defense is good, but they can't stop on the outside. Like, that number blew my mind when I was looking at like fantasy yards and stuff like that today. So give me Cooper Kupp over 50. Playoff Kupp comes back.
I don't hate it.
All right, Warrensy, that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Warrensy and I will be back next week for the divisional round, and we will talk to you later.